you can write off anything as long as it has business use, mainly. Because it's a business expense. That's all it is. You're not getting money back from the government. You're just getting like a tax discount in terms of the taxes you owe at the end of the year.
What's good bookkeeping practices?
The main thing is having some kind of like a month-end reconciliation. So every month you have to know kind of like how much money you made and how much you spend in your business. If you're making $50K from your salary and then you have maybe like a $10K loss on your business because you've invested in certain things, now you're only paying tax on $40K. I hustle for my last name. I don't hustle for my first.
Hello and welcome to Hustle Over Everything podcast. This is the podcast where we receive stories, tips, and tactics from entrepreneurs who have done it. Today we're talking tax.
Tax, baby.
For creators.
Money, 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 money.
Oh, that's good, you, bro. How you doing?
I'm blessed, bro.
Yeah?
Yes, got the summer wear. And
you smell the body oil smelling good?
Body was smelling good, mixed in with my Armani cologne, man.
Oh, yeah.
It's a crazy blend. Bro, you can't miss with this.
Yeah, you can't match that.
What cologne you wearing, bro?
Oh, man. Off the gate, YSL, Nuit de l'Homme.
Nuit de l'Homme, eh?
Yeah.
Eau de toilette or parfum?
Eau de parfum.
Okay.
You French or something?
Langue natale, first language.
Really?
Yeah.
Where you from, bro?
I'm from Cameroon.
Speaking of which, we have Rony Fogain.
We interrupted
in the building.
Alex's intro.
You know what I'm saying? No, we're having a rolling intro for once.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Something different.
Yeah,
something different.
yeah.
You know, Ronnie, how you doing, bro?
Man, I'm
Daddy,
good, man. It's good to see you. I'm trying
know
to
what I'm
not
saying?
like knock the mic over.
We'll
bro.
do this
I got you.
Skip and Shannon.
Wow.
You know, they don't touch.
Yeah.
Wait, they don't.
They don't touch.
That's actually-
It's
this
I mean, they're not touching anymore because he's gone.
He's gone.
He's gone, bro.
He's
But no,
out of
I'm
here like
happy to be
out of
here,
here,
man.
man.
Let's talk about that real quick. You know, I have a quick little detour. What do you think about Skip and Shannon?
Personally, I love them both as a duo. I think Shannon needs Skip as much as Skip needs Shannon. Well, pretty much.
Sorry, go ahead. Let me know.
Yeah. Skip is the originator of debate. Like, he's the godfather of debate and sports debate shows. And he is a TV magnate. He knows how to get views. He knows he's a showman, right? And I think under Skip's tutelage, Shannon became the best version of himself.
I can see that. Yeah.
And Shannon really did not listen to one of the laws of power, which is never outshine the master. Because I think Skip kind of got jealous of Shannon's shine over time with becoming Shannon Sharp, Uncle Sharp. And he's like, no one really has as much as influence as him now. And Skip kind of was just like, yo, I put you on, whatever. That's why he was taking shots at him like, you're just jealous of Brady and he's in the Hall of Fame or whatever. Things that hurt Shannon, Skip kind of use that as a way to kind of get power over him. Like, I know this affects you and you're not going to do anything about it. So you kind of can see the relationship erode over time, which is sad.
Sure.
But I personally enjoy them both. I like Skip's character, like the TV character. I don't know how he's like as a person, but playing the evil villain makes for good TV and entertainment. And Shannon kind of had a good balance. That's why they're successful.
Right.
But to wrap this up, I think Shannon's going to be good. I think he has to think long and hard of his next move, because just because he has Club Shay Shay, that can still have influence. But I think the magnitude he has on TV carries on for this podcast. It's just like, how could people stay interested and keep you relevant? Because if you have a podcast, it kind of can dwindle into the abyss. So he has to find out how can he balance like TV appearances with the podcast.
Right.
Similar to what JJ Redick is doing. Because JJ Redick's influence in the podcast makes like a great combo.
Even close to Charlamagne, too, with what he's doing with Power 105 and Brilliant Idiots, too. They're kind of like symbiotic.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's a bit of like a flywheel. You see him on TV, then you see this podcast pop up and oh, yeah, I just saw him on thing. Let me go check him out.
Yeah.
You know, most definitely. What do you think, bro?
I think Owen's spot on in terms of like Shannon and Skip's dynamic. Like, they work really well together, man. Like, it was good while it was there, but I do think that I get what you're saying about that law that Shannon broke, but one, I don't think he had meant to break it. It's just sometimes when your light is that bright, there's nothing you can do. Like, people will see and gravitate, and that's what Shannon brought. He brought out the grandmama quotes. He brought out the athlete's perspective.
He brought the Hennessy.
He brought out the Hennessy.
He brought the cultural influence to TV.
Do-rag at 7 a.m. in the morning, be like,
The
Skip,
miles.
you want some Skip? Like, honestly, like, he was so homey and friendly. It's like, you knew him. It's like, he's our uncle.
Yeah, you
at
can
the-
feel the
at the
authenticity
barbershop, yeah.
get through the screen on TV.
Yeah.
You know?
And Skip, Skip is who he is. Like, he's a sports like connoisseur. Like, he's been doing it for a while, but he can't bring what Shannon brought. So instead of kind of just like, as you were saying, how you tried to put him down, just like let Shannon shine too. Because when he shines, you shine. It's Skip and Shannon undisputed. So you're winning when he wins. But instead, you got to say that he so what when he says he's in the Hall of Fame? That's disrespectful.
He's like,
That's,
yo, I'm a motherfucker. I'm an MF for Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And then he takes his glasses off, and then he's like, put your glasses back on,
That's
bro.
crazy to me.
He was sunning him. I felt so bad for Shannon. Like,
I almost low key, I felt like there was a bit of racial undertones in it.
Oh, 100%.
You know what I'm saying?
with
100%.
which part? I mean, I didn't see it.
When he said, the way he said put your glasses back on, that irked me the wrong way.
Really?
That was because people have different points that made them be like, oh, Shannon has to go. For me, it was when he said put your glasses back on, because he I think he had meant, before he said that, he said kind of like, so like he was trying to, I don't know, I'm not saying he was gonna curse, but he was like very rash with his delivery of that. And I was like, Shannon has been very kind of like toned in this debate. You telling him to put his glasses back on when him taking off his glasses has nothing to do with the debate. Like, I can take my glasses off and talk to y'all and it's fine, right? So I think that's just a jab that was, I don't know, man. It's, oof. It could go, I don't know.
It can go either way. I think for Skip, I think he saw there was like a moment for good TV here, right? And I think he dialed it up more because he saw Shannon like doing the whole thing. So he's like, turn it up, right? And that was like the most highest rated programs in like the past several months in the mornings that they've had. The racial undertone, I don't know. I don't see it like that.
I mean, no one will ever know, right? Only Skip would know. So.
Yeah.
But I think just the contrasting effect, you have like this old white guy telling this big black guy. I think the way we've been molded over society, you can kind of see it. But I'm like, I think Skip was just kind of like, yo, let's just put the glasses back on, go with the show. So I kind of see it both ways. But I think in the moment, I can see just Skip saying, yo, like, why are you getting cheese? Like, put your glasses back on.
Okay.
It's nothing. Yeah, I can see the race part, but I can just see the other part of like, yo, don't get cheese like this. Just put your glasses back on. We're just debating.
Yeah, no, I see your point of view too. Yeah, it could. No one knows except for Skip.
It's the optics of it that really can look bad on you.
The optics is a
The
big
optics,
everything.
yeah.
That's a fact.
So,
that's a fact. But we're not here to talk about
but
basketball.
bro, no, you
sports
got to
overall.
give your take too.
My take.
I know we got the show rolling, but we can't go without A&W's takes here.
Most definitely. I think in terms of the racial undertones, I think the optics is what played into it, because something would have came out if it was a racial undertone for real. Mm-hmm. But when he says put your glasses back on, it feels like he's commanding him. Like, I tell you what to do, so you have to do it. So that's what kind of stuck out to me. And then instead of looking like coworkers, it was like, oh no, I have dominance over you, so you got to do what I say.
Yeah.
So that would kind of rub me the wrong way for sure. And you could see over time that their relationship was dwindling, that Shannon's star was shining bright, like what you're saying. And now he has options, the power of options, the I am money versus the FU money.
Yeah.
Now that the podcast is so big, he's past 1 million subs, and I think he's getting new offers and buyouts and stuff like that. I think that's where, he starts to look at his options a lot more. So he's like, I'm not taking this no more. Mm-hmm. Maybe in the past he would have taken it, but he knows that you're disrespecting him. I'm like, no, what, this time I'm not taking that. So I think what we're seeing is both his star shine bright, but the power of options as well.
For sure.
Come into it, so.
100%.
Yeah. But I think he has a lot of potential. But what I think Skip brings is a diverse audience, whereas with Shannon, I think he is going to be super into the black community. Like when him and Steve Harvey come together, it's like, oh, I'm watching the uncles, and he has like this uncle show. Whereas with Skip and Shannon, they target two totally different demographics that brings the show to a much higher level.
Yep.
Right? So them breaking apart, Shannon can still have a successful career in the black community. Talking about whatever sport, whatever type of culture, from Timbaland to Drake to whoever he has on the show. But he won't touch that other audience as much as being on FS1. So he has options. Do I want to dial into the culture and put 2 feet in, or do I want to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what he has to analyze. So maybe his next move, if I was him, I'll try to find a next stage that has both of those, so that I can still funnel that traffic back into my podcast and grow it consistently. That would probably be the smartest move.
That might be a Stephen A show, right? Because he extended an invite or something. Like I want Shannon Sharp. Yeah.
To kind of have him in the rotation with like Jerry Rice,
JJ,
Michael Irving, JJ Redick, Mad Dog, Russo, all these characters.
For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're not talking about this. We could talk about sports all day.
All day.
You know, but we're talking about creators and their finances, man. Speaking of which, what got me interested in your story when I was doing research in it was the Dame Dash interview.
Yeah.
You know, the Breakfast Club one to be specific.
For sure, yeah.
What triggered in you when you saw that interview?
Yeah, that interview was jam-packed, man. Honestly, the one thing I remember.
Is it the one he's wearing the red vest?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then he has his two
Sons.
guys with him, not his sons, but two, like Murder Mook was with him, and then there was another guy, and he had his dog too. But the thing that stood out was the line, "I hustle for my last name, I don't hustle for my first." And I feel like that's the way, like, I've carried myself ever since getting into the workforce, where it's like I'm motivated by impacting others. Like I can get myself like to work for myself any day, but what takes me far is like an outlook that's like community driven, family driven, right? And like I look at my niece that was born earlier this week. I look at my nephew Miles. Shout out to Miles, I love you, kid. Like I want to have generational wealth for them, right? That makes it easy because like my life is good. Like the way it is, like I'm very happy, like mentally, physically. I think hustle for my last name, not the first, stuck out to me. And people from that interview take you have to be your own boss. You have to start a business. I don't think if you're listening to this, you have a 9-to-5, you can still build generational wealth. Like our social media, like is kind of brainwashing us to just start businesses. You can pass on a wealthy TFSA to your kids. All right, you can pass on a business or a TFSA with a lot of money in it. So I think the hustle for the last name is what really stuck out to me from that interview.
Yeah, man, that interview is powerful. I've watched it 15, 20 times, to be honest with you. And I remember at the time I was with my ex, I was like, yo, you got to watch this interview. And he's like, why are you so obsessed with this interview? Like the way he spoke without holding anything back and willing just to be like, you know, there's more options than what you already know exists for yourself. And I think that's what opened up people's eyes, is like the power of understanding you have freedom of choice. There's tools you could use. So I use that interview now and then just to give me like a boost of motivation. And the kids part, the family part, there's just like, yo, who's your dad? Like, does your dad talk like a superhero? It's like, not when the boss is in the room. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he spoke so candidly to Envy and Charlemagne and everything like that. I was like, this is like grown man-ish, you know, but greatest Breakfast Club interview in my eyes.
Educational wise, yeah.
Educational wise, okay. Yeah.
I think it opened the floodgates for entrepreneurship talk. Because after that, you saw the Gary V's, you saw the Leo Cohens come in the building, you saw all these like guys talking business, financial literacy. So they took that podcast, that radio morning show, and they try to like really create more educational content around finance, entrepreneurship, and etc. But I kind of found it like very cookie cutter. I think Dame spoke just without not holding anything back, you know. And he goes, "Yo, if you don't do this, there's the internet. You don't." And the thing, he spoke about knowledge. It's like a lot of you guys don't really take the time for knowledge. You do this, and that because everyone thinks you gotta just go start a business, but you gotta learn. You gotta invest in yourself, and I think that's a major part of it that I took away.
For sure,
was that knowledge part.
No, I agree. I think that interview was a monumental like point in the Breakfast Club's history. But honestly, I could get into it for so long, and I don't want to take too much time because I know we're short on time. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna pivot a little bit. What were your thoughts on it? You know, on the interview.
Personally, for me, when Owen was saying that he watched it 15 times, I think that number is pretty spot on for me too. And like in terms of the thoughts in the interview, it's what sparks me to kind of just, now I have my own firm, and it's like it's something that, you know, when my kids are born, and then if they want to get into finance, because one thing I'll say is they can do whatever they want to do, but if they choose to get into finance, that's something that we could work together on, and then eventually they could hold the reins to that, right? So that interview did spark something in me as well, in my mentality as we live now. So shout out to Dame, shout out to Envy for being a good sport and holding his own too.
You know that guy you're talking about, OG Daniel.
OG Daniel.
Yeah. He was the other guy to Dame's left with the glasses. Because we were talking about Murder Mook and everything. We're like, it's OG Daniel.
That's how you know we've seen it too.
Yeah.
He says, you got two different lenses because you got a boss. Oh, yeah, I felt the burn on that. Like to Envy, I was like, bro, you're
when Envy's like, I don't know which one, and he's like, you got two.
You got two bosses? Oh my god. Oh, bro, shout out to Dame, bro.
Yo, that's gonna be our interview of the year when you have Dame on.
Oh, Dame?
For sure.
Of
for
course.
Sure, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know. All right. So
Jigga Diddy Russell.
when did you start your practice, bro?
Like as a sole proprietor, it's been 2 years, but in terms of like getting it like registered as a corp right before I left for Texas. So like I wanted to kind of have the entity in Canada while I was away. So that's when I got the professional corporation set up. For those who don't know, it's like lawyers and accountants have to get a professional corporation registered. So I had to go through that with CPA Ontario. It took a bit of time, but yeah. So the corporation, I want to say January or February, but then I've been doing this as a sole proprietor for like 2-3 years.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching the show. We have some amazing merch live on our website right now. My personal favorite is the definition tee. You can go find it in the link below. And if you don't like that, you can explore some other products on our website. How was like your upbringing with money? Because you studied, you went to Rotman, you did accounting and finance, but growing up, what was that intrigue in actually thinking, I'm going to do finance as a career path for you?
Yeah, great question. Like my upbringing with money, there wasn't that talk with the parents about like finances. It was kind of just like learning on the fly. Like I grew up, I had allowances here and there that I would usually save up. Like I was not spending it on anything. Like I'd buy like Pokemon cards and stuff when I was a kid, but like, I'd usually save it up. But I kind of always had a knack of wanting to understand how money works, because that's the language of businesses, that's the language of governments, nonprofits, everything we see around us. Someone behind it, the creator, is thinking monetarily, how do I profit? And I wanted to get familiar with that, comfortable with that, for multiple reasons: to help myself, to help my family, and to impact others. So yeah, ended up in business school, kind of because I didn't know what I wanted to do. When people don't know what they want to do, they just go into business school. I did like businesses though. Like I ran like a jersey business in high school, just selling basketball jerseys, mainly football jerseys.
I was thinking you're going to say like the Bel Air jerseys or the
Those two.
the Looney
Those two.
Tunes.
Yeah.
Those two.
Or like
Yeah.
old Steph Curry shit.
Yeah.
What was your best day selling jerseys?
My best day, I think there was a kid, he had bought like 6 jerseys. Like Manchester, I remember he bought a Cristiano Ronaldo, and he was in Juventus at the time. I don't know if it's 2018, but he bought like a Ronaldo one. He bought like a Messi. He just bought like at least 6 jerseys, and they went for maybe $60 each, and I would get them for like 20.
You're eating.
Eating after that.
Yeah. I had to. It was good.
It's crazy how like with perspective, when you're younger, when you're looking at money, like $1,000 in your pocket feels like 10 G's.
Yeah.
Imagine give me $1,000 in
Now?
uni. I'm stretching that for like 2 months.
For sure. And then now it's like, shit, that's going to rent.
Yeah.
You know, that's going to the mortgage, you know,
That's
all
a
that stuff.
fact. I'm about to go on a little bit, but you went to move to Texas, you said, right? Why did you move to Texas?
I get that question a lot, Alex. Honestly, I don't know. What I'll say is that I felt like I wanted to change the scenery. Like, honestly, I saw a video about like, you know, moving somewhere else that's you're super unfamiliar with when you've been comfortable in one place for a while. I've been here since I was like 8. It changes you. And I can say 5 months in, I'm a completely different person. My mindset is different. My outlook is different. I appreciate things a lot more because I've kind of been pulled out of my quote unquote comfort zone. And you don't have to do it that extreme, but it's definitely been like, you know, meeting new people, like moving out there by myself. I knew nobody there, and kind of familiarizing myself with the game. And it's done a lot of good for me.
I can't lie. I thought you were moving out for a girl. I won't even lie to you. I was like, he moving to Texas?
Never that.
He matched with some ting on Tinder.
Never that. Never that.
I gotta meet her.
I've got to meet with you.
To be away from my nephew for that? No, never. But yeah, y'all should come down there, man. It'll be a fun
They
time.
say everything's bigger in Texas. Right?
Everything is bigger in Texas.
You live large, you drink extra large, everything. Eh?
Yeah.
All right, so what's been like the difference between Toronto and Texas in terms of this like life experience? How far does your money go? Let's talk to us about that before we get into some tax talk.
Yeah, I think Texas, the most standout is the weather. Like people step out in like wife beaters like all year long. You know what I'm saying? So it's been good to get more sun, because I don't know about you guys, like getting more sun is just better for the mind. Like I don't know if y'all remember at the beginning of this year and late last year, we weren't seeing any sun, like even during like peak like noon. And that was affecting my mental health. I was talking to my therapist about it. She was like, yeah, I don't know if you heard, but like we're just like the sun's not showing up like strong.
So the chemtrails.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So I get a lot of that in Austin. Like I wake up to sunlight and that just brightens up the day, gets you ready to go to the gym, gets you ready to take on the day. So that's the number one. Number two, a lot of people are driven down there. So people like to talk about the tech world that Austin has, but I think it's a lot more than that. The creative world. They call it the live music capital of the world, but then there's so many creatives down there who are driven. They're trying to put their stamp on the world, impact it however they can. There's a lot of creators, which aligns with my clientele, as you guys know. And that's been good in terms of making connections and building rapport. And three is it's expansion. Austin is expansion for me because I'm a Canadian CPA, but I want to be able to help US creators. So I'm currently getting my US CPA as well. So it's given me the opportunity to work hard, play hard, and expand. So all of that.
Man, Texas looks so good. The way
you're dreaming of Texas for the longest
time.
Man.
Come through.
Yeah.
You can stay at my crib, man. Yeah.
Now you have agency.
All right.
You got sovereignty back. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, sure. Man, you doing the CPA stuff. I was curious to know about your time at Deloitte, right? KPMG, right? How was the difference in working in corporate and then actually doing your own thing?
Yeah. In hindsight, it's not that much different. I think what is different now is the mindset because I'm not working for myself. So speaking on corporate, man, that was a trip and I don't miss it. The hours were long, like the 9 a.m. to midnights just to do it all over again. Driving to the client side downtown, so like taking the DVP during traffic, like I hated that. But it taught me discipline. It taught me about myself in ways where it's like, I know that I'm a hard worker. I'm not a lazy person. If I need to get something done, I'll get it done. It taught me that. And two, it taught me if I can do it for someone else, I can also do it for myself. And not just for the ego and like I get more of the piece of the pie, but I can also help people who I want to help. Like in corporate, I was working on large clients, like, people making hundreds of millions in revenue. I was like, I'm seeing like my barbershop like down here, and he's like asking me about finance and tax, and I'm like, I want to be able to help them out. And that's when like I started doing my own thing. Obviously, I don't work like directly with barbers, but if barbers want to hit me up and they're doing content creation, then I want to be able to service them. All right. So yeah, corporate finance, corporate world was a trip. I don't miss it.
Man, I've heard crazy stories, man. I mean, I had a couple boys who they did everything in school. They were part of like the finance club. They did Enactus. They did all these things because all these companies will come and recruit you at the business school. So you have Deloitte, you have KPMG, EY, all the big fours, right? And the reality when you get in there, it's like completely different. They treat you like you're a bottom feeder. You're not getting paid as much.
Yep.
The mental health toll that goes on in your mind and your whole body, it's not worth it, right? So it's just crazy to see how hard you work to get into those spaces, and then when you get there, it's not as it is.
What you hope for. Yeah.
So, man,
it can hit you like a truck, man. Like I know some people who just felt defeated once they got in because they'll bring you in with the internship where like you're not really doing work. They're just trying to like sell you into getting in full time. And then once you get into full time, and as you say, you realize that's not what you wanted. You question your whole like the last 5-6 years of your life.
Yeah, the ones you've been grinding and the prestige that comes with it too, right? To say I work at EY, I work at KPMG, it's like a stamp of approval, right? So when you in these Bay Street kind of conversations, I work at KPMG, I'm an analyst. But I think there's a certain threshold you passed where the posturing and the status you get from being at a big four doesn't really equate to what could possibly be out there that brings you true happiness. There's some girl who just wanted to start, I want to just do influencer and sell bikinis and yoga stuff online, but I worked so hard to be in accounting and finance. I don't want it to go to waste. I'm like, no, you can use that knowledge to build your own business 100%. On the side to bring happiness back. Instead of feeling like your manager can have access to you at 10 p.m. Hey, that client, did you do the right billing? Like, and that's one of the things I saw from the people around me is like the amount of access people think they have on you is unfathomable.
Yeah.
They get into the trap of the social status, the life of feeling like you can access the people in that circle, the money. Even though it's not getting paid as much, you feel like, I can reach a specific point. They trap you in, So
for sure.
It's a good thing you escape. Now, with running your own business, are you on hunt mode where you're hunting clients and then servicing them? Or do you find that you have a lot of deal flow inside? When I say hunt mode, are you approaching and are you doing a lot of outbound reaching out to get clients? Or are you more so on the defense, just taking in people that are approaching you?
I'd say I'm still a small creator my reach is all organic. Like I've never paid for an ad in my life. So it's either a referral or someone who's seen me on TikTok and Instagram, and they click on my website, which is in my bio, and they book a consultation. So I would say I'm more still on the hunt, but I'm never hunting. I'm kind of just focusing on creating organic content. Like my view is always create content that I would think that people would want to hear, and then everything will fall into place. Because I'm just doing this like because I like doing this. If anything, is I've been through the days where my only likes were of myself and my mom in the videos, right? So it's like now to see a community of people behind me, and then I just want to keep doing that. So technically, I'm still kind of on a hunt because I don't think I'm at like capacity in terms of the clients that I can have, but it's pretty good right now. Like the people who trust me with their business, like I'm grateful for it, and just trying to get better for them and trying to get more service for them. Yeah.
So let's get into some tax talk, bro.
All right.
So first things first, as creators, what are some of the misconceptions when it comes to what you can write off and what you cannot write off?
Great question, because there's a lot of CPAs who do content that love write-offs as a term to trick people. So we're here on 24/7 Hustler. We're gonna break it down for the people, right? So technically, like starting at the basics, a write-off is a business expense. Because you're a creator and you carry your own business, anything you purchase to help you run your business is a write-off, right? People's laptops are write-offs if they create content using their laptops to edit. Same thing can be said for a food reviewer who buys the new Harvey's burger because he wants to try it out. That's a supply for a video. That's a business expense. A carpenter can't do that because he doesn't have a food reviewing business. If he buys Harvey's, that might be a meals and entertainment expense if he has a business partner, but usually it won't be a write-off, right? So that's kind of the general rule for it. So anything can be written off if it helps you with your business. Now, there are some exceptions. Items that are like too personal in nature, for example, like say, like I create content on a weekly basis. I get haircuts, right? Because I want to look good. Some people might be like, yo, you can write off your haircuts because you're using them to create content. But the thing is now, once I turn my camera off and step out to dinner with a friend or to work the next day or to go on vacation, I still have the same cut. The personal use there greatly outweighs the business use, right? So like a lot of personal appearance items like makeup is similar to it. Those are the ones that it's a gray area. I'm not going to say you can't write them off. I'm going to say it has to be like very well documented and explained. For example, if you have a contract with a brand where they tell them your upkeep has to be on point. So we expect you to have haircuts every week and stuff. That's when you have that business use, right? So those are the kind of exceptions that people don't tell you online when they talk about, oh, write off this, write off that. Because when you think about it, they have nothing to lose, right? Like they can't be sued off a YouTube video that you saw. So they'll just say whatever they can to get you to get into their membership. But be very meticulous about your write-offs as a creator. You can write off anything as long as it has business use mainly, because it's a business expense. That's all it is. You're not getting money back from the government. You're just getting like a tax discount in terms of the taxes you owe at the end of the year.
Do you taxes is a very broad topic.
Yeah.
But to begin, do you find early on creators are intimidated by the whole idea of taxes? Because when you think about taxes, there's a lot of things that go into it. But the psychological part of handling your financial structure, especially as a creator, because it's not like any other business, because you're creating content, you're getting paid. Walk us through the psychological aspect that you face when you're dealing with clients and when they come to you like, hey, Ronnie, like, I don't know that, but they got to put up a front as if they know, just so they don't seem as if like they're running some hobby or some sort of that.
Dude, it's a great question because 100% that's a common theme, that fear that creators have. They're intimidated because of what they don't know, right? Or what they are just afraid of. It's kind of like when you're a kid and your mom is bringing you a plate. You got the chicken, you got the rice, you got the veggies. You're going to go for the chicken and the rice. Like, that's fine. You're not intimidated. But the veggies, you're going to leave it for it to the end. Same thing with taxes. Like I work with clients who, they may have not filed for more than 1 year not because like they're lazy or anything. It's just like they've kind of had that fear over it. And what I tell them is, first, it's okay. Like I relate sometimes, like we all procrastinate on something where we don't know what to do with it, so we put it to the side. But what I then tell them is the first thing you did good was to take action, like reaching out to me or reaching out to whoever. Just the fact that you were like, okay, enough is enough, I got to do this, that's good. And honestly, I just tell them, to get things back on track, it starts with having proper bookkeeping. It starts with having tax planning calls, or just keeping track of like your own situation, getting good systems in place. If you don't want to do your own like accounting and tax, get someone else to do it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, definitely intimidation is a big factor, but anyone can get through it for sure.
What's good bookkeeping practices?
Good bookkeeping practices. That's a great question. I think the main thing is having some kind of like a month-end reconciliation. So every month you have to know kind of like how much money you made and how much you spend in your business. If you don't know how much money is coming in and out of your business, you could be thinking that you're making money, but then you're like, your cash flow is horrible. You're quote unquote like losing money. You're having a losing business. So I would say having monthly bookkeeping, if you're using a software, check at the end of the month like how it's looking. That means like kind of categorizing the expenses. You can automate it too these days. So by linking your business bank account, I help people do this like set it up for themselves. So it's doable. It just takes a bit of effort.
This podcast is brought to you by Rony Cellars. If you didn't know, Rony Cellars is the only Black-owned wine company in Canada. Right now, I'm holding the Rosé, the 2021 Rosé bottle. This drink is amazing. I mean, it's perfect for those dishes such as seafood, where you're cooking shrimp, you're having some pasta, whatever it is you're having. Grab a bottle of Rony Cellars, the Rosé. If you're having a date night with your significant other, you know what to grab. Grab the Rony. Whatever it is, grab the Rony. I mean, you will not go wrong with this wine. It's perfect for everybody. If you've never drank wine, this is a great bottle for you. Or even if you're a wine expert, you're an aficionado and you drink everything. I mean, you cannot go in Rony. I'm telling you, this wine is really, really good. And even though I'm boosting it this hard, is because I really love drinking it. And I'm someone who loves to drink wine. So whatever it is, whatever the special occasion, check out Rony. They have Sauvignon Blancs, they have Rieslings. I'm holding the Rosé right now. They have a wide variety of different collections of different wines you can choose from. Make sure to check them out. The link is going to be in the description. Check them out. Order a crate for yourself, or you can send a gift to someone that you want to gift some wine to. You can't go wrong with that. So in Rony Cellars, check them out. Link will be in the description. And now back to the show. So would you say there's a certain structure creators should set up their business from a financial perspective than as opposed to I'm setting up an e-commerce store or some sort of like trade business where there's actually some structure, cost of goods, labor, because being a creator is very arbitrary into what you can define as this is revenue, this is a loss, etc. So break that down
for sure
into how that works.
Fantastic question. It's a two-part answer. I'll start with the entity structure, and then I'll start with like the chart. I'll end with the chart of accounts structure for creators. So in terms of entities, because we know the creators, they usually start doing content creation as a side hustle, right? So you want to structure it. You want to register a sole proprietorship. So that's what I always do. Like when I help creators like register, I would say start with a sole proprietorship, because unlike an e-com business that may carry a liability if they sell like something sharp and someone may sue the business, they want to incorporate right away so that, you know, they are protected from that. But creators, like the worst that can happen is you get canceled for saying something crazy. And usually that won't happen. You're usually talking about what you're passionate about. So that sole proprietorship, what it allows you to do is the business income, and usually at the beginning of your journey, you'll start at a loss, and that loss can be put along with your salaried income because you're doing it as a side hustle. If you're making $50K from your salary and then you have maybe like a $10K loss on your business because you've invested in certain things, now you're only paying tax on, did I say 50 and 10? So you're paying tax on 40K. Right? So that's the number one structure, sole proprietorship for creators, because it's that natural way to save on taxes through utilizing business losses. Now, in terms of structures with chart of accounts, you're right. Creators are not traditional businesses. They have line items for expenses like brand expense or supplies for video expense, like stuff like that. So it's definitely important to kind of structure your bookkeeping to tailor what your content creation business is about, whether that be like anything really. I always say food reviewers, but even gamers, you know, they might have like a video game expense. Old heads might be like, what? That's not a thing. But nowadays it is. Yeah. So,
yeah, that chart of accounts, especially for assets and the assets and liabilities part, can be so hard to understand. What is it? Is it just cash on hand? Is it just, you know, what would be, is it my camera? Is it the equipment? Just understanding like that whole balance sheet of a creator.
Very important. Yeah.
Let me ask you something. For a lot of creators, they actually have two businesses that run simultaneously. because they have the creation of their business and maybe getting sponsors, but they have multiple different revenue streams like affiliates, brand sponsors, ad revenue from YouTube, things of that nature, right? How do you suggest they balance all that in their books? Like, should they have different accounts for different revenue streams? Like, how do you suggest they go about that?
That's a great question. I usually break it down like this for creators who have, as you were saying, like they'll have the content creation aspect. They may also sell like digital products. They might have like membership folks on Patreon and sell clothes. So like the important thing, and I'm very glad you brought up this question, is CRA audits or IRS audits. They have a certain type of automation to them where they look at your business expense and they compare it with comparables in the industry to say, oh, if this person is doing content creation and his brand expense is X, and this person is not in content creation and his brand expense is Y, and it's like a lot higher, that's a red flag, right? Because they're comparing. So like if they're both in the same industry, but then they have separate levels of expenses for brand expense, they're going to flag the higher one because they're saying that comparable, it shouldn't be that high. Right. So that's why it's important when you set up your structure. If you have multiple businesses, if they are very different, it's important to have different sole proprietorships registered for them or separate corporations registered for them.
Okay.
Granted, now, if all of your businesses, even if it's multiple streams, but they're all kind of digital in nature, like if it's just like content, like memberships, like if you're not like selling inventory, if it's all just digital, you can group them together, group the books together. You can separate the revenues, like revenue from brand deals, revenue from membership, revenue from X and Y in the books, right? So like when you pull an income statement, you can see all of those revenues together under that same umbrella. So you can do that. I hope that answers your question. But
yeah, we did something similar like that too, right? Because we launched the studios part of Uplift Media, but there's like a great thing on QuickBooks. You can tag different expenses, right? So it's understanding which subcontractor, because we work with so many different people. So that tagging feature really helped harmonize everything together. And you're like, okay, this is this person. It gives you like a clear picture of who is who. Don't just say labor expense. Okay, how much are we paying to this person? And you can actually have a better judge of expenses, of understanding, okay, this can go, this can stay. And it's really like helped just visualize everything, because sometimes you don't know how much, collectively you're making money, but what percentage of revenue is coming here from this business and etc. But that was like a game changer, especially for QuickBooks, since we're doing multiple things that I found helped us.
It's a fantastic feature, man, especially when you can pull the report specifically for what's tagged.
Exactly.
So you have that analytical view. Shout out to QuickBooks, man. But
yeah. With the sole proprietor, like when do you advise to incorporate? Because creators inevitably are going to get big. It's not like you're going to get less of a creator, right? You're going to continue growing. What is the growth marker that you suggest incorporate your business now? You're actually like a figure, that you're more than a creator. You manage people, you manage a team, you are a business now.
Yeah. So that's a great question. Everyone's like, yo, when should I incorporate? When should I incorporate? It's usually when you're making more money in that business than you need. So you can now leave the excess that you don't need within the corporation, which is subject to a lower tax rate, right? So you end up getting taxed less on the net when we look at your personal and corporate taxes together. So say it varies by person, right? Some people are good with $50K a year. So the moment they get $70K in their business, they keep the other 20 within the corp. So like it varies. I'd say usually from what I've seen, people incorporate when they get to like maybe $70K net in their content creation business. I think it's a good rule of thumb because they're usually also still working at that time. So they just shelter the rest in the corporation.
Okay. Now, when you have separate entities, with, let's say I do e-commerce, I just want to make sure I clarify that. So if I'm doing e-commerce, it's better to have two different corporations. But if I'm doing digital products, then it's better to have it under one. So
the e-commerce, I would say the e-commerce should be in a separate corporation because of the liability associated with it. You know what I'm saying? Because like you can keep the content creation as a sole proprietorship. You can choose to incorporate as well. But I think the moment you're getting into e-commerce, like if you're doing Amazon FBA and stuff, get that in a corporation. If you're in the States, get it in an LLC. Just because of that liability protection, you're giving goods to people. If they're not happy, they could come after you. So you want to be able to protect, if you had a mortgage on a house, you got your cars, you want to be able to shelter that. So even regardless of like separating for tax purposes, just do it for liability. So that's just more of like, I guess that's my opinion. This is not financial advice. This is just my opinion.
This is not financial advice. Yeah. Now, real quick, because we're not going to be a debunking podcast, but there's one thing I did want to debunk that I tagged you in on IG.
Yes, sir.
A gentleman said that he can write off his birthday.
Uh-huh.
Talk to us about that. Can you write off your birthday if you do it in a specific way?
To his credit, there is a way to do it, and he described it very well, where you establish business purpose. It goes back to what we were saying at the beginning. Anything is really a write-off if there's business purpose, because a write-off is a business expense. So what he was saying, for those who aren't familiar with the video in question, is it's the day of your birthday and you're throwing a party, but before that you throw a 2 or 3 hour mastermind with your friends, and those friends have to be business owners as well, because it is a business meeting, and because you guys are talking in a mastermind, that whole venue that you bought for the party later the night is a write-off. He's technically correct. Now, do I think, is this something I would recommend to my friends or anyone? Personally, no, because if it's my birthday, I'm not trying to talk business. I'm trying to get in. I'm trying to turn up, right? So it's
trying to get on the hen dog,
bro. You know, where's the Henny at? Henny Chronicles.
Miles.
But it's something that, you know, if you're really trying to get a write-off, which I really wish that we could spread a message where write-offs aren't the end of anything. I feel like once you have a corporation, you shouldn't really care about write-offs because you're already at the lowest tax rate. It's gimmicky at this point, in my opinion. But he's technically right. It's kind of like what Diddy does. I don't know if you guys see Diddy's and Jay-Z's Rock Nation parties. So they bring all these artists, their business partners, and they're talking business. They're probably talking about, you know, how their records did and all that. And then they turn up later on, like Michael Rubin and his parties, and that's a write-off because it's business in nature. So yes, you can write off your birthdays if you throw a mastermind. Do I recommend it? There's other ways to reduce your tax bill, man. Yeah.
Man, you know, the thing is, man, this whole tax write-off stuff, it just sounds so cool to say. Don't you agree? Like, it's just like,
it rolls off the tongue.
It's just, it's a tax write-off. We're doing a client lunch. It's a tax write-off. It makes you feel as if that you're actually grooving and moving in your business. And it kind of, it's like a way of just showing off, like, it's a tax write-off. Yeah. And it makes you seem smarter than you actually are.
That's really what it is.
That's what it is.
That's really what it is.
It's just like, it's a tax write-off. But a lot of people don't know. Like, even I get tax write-offs, but I truly don't understand the depths of tax write-offs, right? I can know from like a rudimentary level, but there's so much to learn. There's so much bobbing and weaving that a lot of people the common creator doesn't know, but the information you get from these other creators, you think you can write off anything, right? I remember like my boy from back home, his brother just became a realtor. So we're in the car, and you know when you're like in the parking lot, like your boy is dropping you back home, you get like there's some deep talk energy that comes from being dropped off and you're parked and you're both in the car and you start getting into talks and whatever. It's like, Joe just got like this computer and everything. He just hasn't started a business and he's already talking about tax write-offs and everything. And I didn't pretend like I knew what a tax write-off is. I just kind of let him spill the beans. But the nature of like how his brother was talking about tax write-off, just like anything he does, I'm going to the driving range, tax write-off on that, like tax write-off on that. It's like an entryway of showcasing that you're a business owner now, you know, which is so funny, but I'll never know all the details, but that's why you have accountants.
For sure.
You know, so what is the best way to vet an accountant, in your opinion?
It's definitely with another accountant, right? Because the way I see is an accountant who knows what they're doing. You could talk to another accountant and they'll give you the exact same advice, right? So like same thing with lawyers, same thing with any professional, like if you have that luxury, because I recognize it's not everyone can just pull two accountants out of the way. So I'd say in terms of vetting an accountant, for example, CPA Ontario, CPA Canada, we have a firm directory. So you can actually see if the person's registered like as a CPA or something like that. So that would be the first check. Second, if they have a website, get on your detective mode and see if there's like clients that they've worked with and just ask them like, hey, how was Ronnie? Like how was X, like how do you do on X, Y, and Z? I was saying at the beginning, when you're saying how do I get my clients, like half of it is really referrals, because it's like the best advertisement is the good work that you do and it'll spread. So if you want to vet an accountant and see if they're legit, just try to get in contact with people who they worked with and ask them genuine questions of how they were. Google them, see if they're legit, and then ask them very hard questions because usually they'll have like free consultations and stuff. Ask them very direct questions like, hey, like I'm this is an interview, like both ways. Like it's an interview for me if I want to work with you, but it's also an interview for you to see if I'm the right fit for you. So that's how I would say those are my 3 tips to vet an accountant.
That's big. All right, now let's continue on the tax talk and just some money management strategies when it comes to being a creator. So as a creator right now, the most profitable aspect of it is one, YouTube. AdSense, brand deals, and courses.
Yeah.
Like, those are like the three main ones, you know. I would say sponsorships and courses are actually the bigger ones. How do you advise creators to manage the money that comes in from those two aspects?
Yeah.
You know, should they be consistently reinvesting it? Should they look at it as, I just got this, and parking it there? Like, any advice?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say there's two big tips. That's a fantastic question, because with creators, your cash flow can be so irregular, right? 1 month you can get 2 major sponsorship deals, and for the next 2 months, or brand deals, and for the next 2 months you have nothing. Same thing with like AdSense, right? Like YouTube is bigger in Q4, right?
Yep.
And then like you might have your peak and be like, oh, like it's on now, I'm gonna be rich, and then after on next year it dips back down. So my 2 tips would be forecast, and this is something that you'll usually do with an accountant, but they can see like from Q1, like Q1 just ended, Q2 is about to end as well, but we can forecast based on how much money you made during 1 month or 2 months, project that towards the year, and by doing that we can say, okay, you're going to want to not spend all of the sponsorship money you just earned, kind of like split it out as if you're being paid by the month, right? And there's a good method called the profit first method. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, but whenever you get paid, you know, you're trying to get to a number to determine your operating cash flow, like how much cash you have to spend on business expenses. But what you prioritize first is once you get paid, you put a portion, you create your percentage based on what you like, but you put a portion in savings, put a portion into taxes, put a portion into your own owner's pay, and then the rest goes into operating money. So I think that's a good method, forecast with profit first. And yeah, I mean, my second is just tax plan effectively too. Like, I don't know, it's like you get a lot of money with creators, you have to withhold your own taxes because you're not an employee anymore. You don't have to not worry about taxes because your employer is already withholding it for you. So put your money aside, know that whatever money you're getting, if it's a 10K deal, know that like at least 15 to 20% of that has to be put to the side, which brings me to my next point of having business accounts where you got to have a checking and a savings and a tax one, where you can isolate that money, and preferably if you're able to not see the tax account as if the money's not there, that's great.
Yeah, because you can easily like get oh yeah, man, we got to pay this bill, you dip into the tax account.
Exactly.
It's a big one.
What are some because commonly when we speak about taxes, we know about the T4, we know about the I was gonna say, but I'm gonna let you mention it, but there's several other forms that go apart from the T4 when building your business. So can you break down all those forms and what they're useful for, especially when you're working with contractors and seasonal employees?
Great question. It could get very technical, so I'll kind of like brush through the main ones. The T4A is a big one. It's basically the T4 but for contractors. So, you know, if you're getting a gig done, if a brand is paying you X, Y, and Z, they'll usually give you a T4A if they're, you know, like legit about their business, because that's kind of the formal way to do things, like an invoice or a T4A. And that's what you can use to kind of just like at the end of the year when you file your taxes, you can submit those T4As. The second thing is the T2125. So that's the most important form if you are a sole proprietor, because that's where you list out all your revenues and expenses of the business. Once you incorporate, now you have the T2 return and you have schedules. So the Schedule 1 is going to be like the T2125, but for the corp. So that's where you list out all your business expenses. You're also going to need a Schedule 4 for losses in a business. So when you're a corporation, if you have a year of a loss, you can carry over that loss into the next year. And say you make a lot of money next year, the loss of the previous year can offset that, right? So you reduce your tax liability. There's other schedules like Schedule 8 for like capital assets, but I think the first two that I named are the most key. So T4A for contractors if you earn over $500, and the T2125 for sole proprietors for the write-offs.
Big gems. All right. When it comes to hiring overseas, any tips there? Because like, are you going to use the same T4A for hiring overseas, or it's a different practice?
So for hiring overseas, as in say you have a content creation business and you're trying to hire someone overseas?
Exactly. Let's say, you know, I want to hire an editor for my YouTube channel. What's the best practice of having that be broken out?
I say with overseas, it's tough because now you're dealing with 2 jurisdictions. But I think for you, just to cover your grounds, like you can track his payment through, like, do you use a payroll software, or do you kind of just pay him kind of cash, like from the business account?
Just so, let's say
Sometimes like a credit card too, yeah.
Credit cards, invoices.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you create? Does he create and he's a contractor, right? So does he create an invoice for you?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So that should be sufficient, because like, I mean, now the moment that you're hiring someone overseas, like there's no need like for sales tax and stuff like that, because they're not in the Canadian jurisdiction. But yeah, as long as he has the invoice, that's what you would need to track. If he's an employee, because he's a contractor, but if he's an employee, I think that's where it would become a bit more complicated. You'd have to like, I would recommend getting a payroll software for that, so you can input where he's at or where she's at, and then the payroll software will figure it out for you. But because he's a contractor, he's overseas, like, and he gives you that invoice invoice. So that's your proof of payment. If you get audited, you're fine.
Yeah, there's like Deal too. Like you have deal.com.
What is that?
So it's essentially helping businesses with contractors specifically. I've been looking into it, but there hasn't been an opportunity to actually implement it because the people we work with are either in Canada or the States. So they're not like in Europe where they have different jurisdictions with, I mean, they do have different jurisdictions, but there hasn't been an opportunity. But it's something that I just wanted to mention is you can utilize that software. It's similar to QuickBooks. It's like huge in handling contractors and payroll and et cetera. So it gives you everything from breaking down taxes and
does it do the bookkeeping for you? Like,
I don't think it doesn't do bookkeeping. It helps you with the laws of it, of actually how to pay your contractors when they're not within your country.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'll look into that for sure. I don't know about y'all. I'm a geek when it comes to like learning stuff. I'm the type to like spend some nights just like getting lost on Google, just Googling stuff.
Even Wikipedia, man. Have you been on a Wikipedia click rabbit hole?
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
What was the last wormhole you went through?
It was actually the other night. So I went to my best friend's place, and her father is like a whiskey connoisseur. Shout out to Tina. But he was talking about something called Angel Share. I don't know if y'all heard of that, but the way whiskey's made is like they distill it they age it for a long time in wooden barrels. So like the wood kind of just like removes toxins, but also gives that flavor that we like in whiskey.
The oakish.
Yeah, the oakish texture. But the thing is, because it's getting aged for so long, they realize that they've lost some volume in the whiskey from the barrel, and it's because a portion of it just vanishes. So it's not evaporation, because it's not like it's like heat that's like burning it, but it just vanishes and dissipates. Like usually they say 2% of the volume will go away, and it has good benefits and downsides to the whiskey. The benefits are that, you know, it like kind of distills it faster and stuff like that, but the downside is like, yo, like where did all my whiskey go? Because if it's aged for a long period of time and they say 2% goes away, that 2% over a long period of time can turn out being like 24% of the volume gone. So that's what they call Angel's Share, because it just goes like no one knows what I want. Yeah,
goes up to the heavens. Yeah. Do you have like a particular kind of whiskey you enjoy drinking?
I'll shout out my favorite Austin distillery right now. Shout out to Standard Proof Whiskey. They do some good stuff over there. I've been drinking that heavy.
Yeah, that's why, because you mentioned you drank an old fashioned before.
Yeah.
The bourbons are usually good too.
Bourbons are the ones for me. Yeah.
I can't drink like the single malts, man. They're like really, really heavy.
Single malts, gosh. Ooh. I mean, I feel you on that. Bourbon's my favorite, but I could do some peaty whiskey as well. And yeah. What about you? What's your favorite drink?
I'm a rum guy.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm a rum guy. I like a good aged rum. You know, like a 15-year-old Appleton.
Nice.
You know,
the premium stuff.
Yeah, you know, that's kind of
them ones.
My I like whiskey too, you know, but rum is definitely my thing. Yeah. So if anyone wants to get me a gift,
now we know.
You know what I'm saying?
Rum daddy over here.
You feel me?
Big Papa Al. The rum.
Me? All right, so as work was wrapping up, man, where can people find you?
You can find me all over social media at RFOGAIN. This is my handle, Fogain. I also have a website, rfogain.com, where you can book a call with me and my firm. We help out with tax planning, tax preparation. If you need some bookkeeping, don't want to do it, we got people to handle it. And then, just all over social media, and then in person too in Austin, Texas, if you're around.
Most definitely, man. I definitely want to do a part 2 with you.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more to cover that I feel like we don't get to cover.
Yeah.
I'm excited to keep talking with you, you know what I'm saying? And just develop the relationship, man.
For sure.
So with that being said, this is what you can't control. So control your grind and control your life. I'm Alex.
And I'm Ono Sinde.
And I'm Ronnie.
That's the show, y'all.
Peace out.
Peace out, everyone.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode. Make sure you visit hustleovereverything.co and cop some fire merch that we have in the store. And then we'll see you in the next episode.